All right, you've made it all the way to episode 6. This is the story on what happened. You ready? So there's a lot to talk about leading up to LS Fest and Hot Pit Auto Fest in California, so I figured I'd sit down and just give you guys a full-on conversation about it. Hopefully we got enough B-roll to cover what we're discussing, but let's get into it. Cheers. So Jack and I both exhausted. We arrived to Vegas, but we get a night's sleep, and when we wake up, we head over to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The first thing I start to do is change the oil, since we haven't even gotten a chance to change the oil since taking it off the dyno and loading it directly back up on the trailer. Went ahead and bled the power steering system better, the cooling system better. We went ahead and made sure that the clutch lines were bled, brake lines were bled, the brake lines were bled. We made it for the driver's meeting. We got no practice, but we went to get the warm-up laps in, and after this crazy 30-hour drive, and to spend an entire month building the car, getting it ready, getting it running properly. I mean, as we rolled up to the start line, we felt like the temps were doing great. The car was a smooth rolling chassis, suspension felt great, steering response felt great, clutch engagement felt great. Everything about the car just felt dialed, and we were just like pumped to go. So we get to the start line, we go to warm up the tires, I dump the clutch, I snap the driver's side axle stub, the passenger side axle. After that insane, 25 plus hour drive to get to Vegas. That whole month of like pushing through, making things happen, getting things back together. So obviously a huge letdown. When we got back to the pits, so I have an FX850 twin disc clutch that's unsprung. My clutch delay valve, it doesn't really make a huge difference. We tried making adjustments to it and it didn't really seem to help. So we got a solid aluminum single piece drive shaft, no guibo, no rubber bushings in between, the nice T56, brand new T56 Magnum we have, and then pair that with all that power, all of that torque goes straight to the rear axles, and either if the ring gear doesn't break on the differential, the rear axle stub or the axles will break. And so we had to change our driving style for the rest of the trip if we wanted to keep driving. Thankfully, Seabear Stunts pulled through. He showed up in the morning with 2 spare axles for us. We only needed 1, so it was good to have another one to bring on the trip with us. We replaced the broken axle, we replaced the broken axle stub. So on day 2, mainly the goal was to be able to at least test the car out, get a feel for this motor, figure out how things were performing, since we didn't get any track time before we came down to go to this competition. So I got the car back together, and my main priority was to be able to take Jack out because he had just gone on this crazy journey with me, and it wasn't all that fulfilling as I just snapped both axles at the start line of a competition he was supposed to be able to at least enjoy watching. So I wanted to get Jack out, and unfortunately, yet another catastrophe, which of course happened. I go to take Jack, we go to initiate, and the G-forces from getting the car sideways, my fire extinguisher came loose, rolled back to where the subframe roll cage mounts. Apparently the pin fell out. The extinguisher had been used before, so there was no more zip tie holding the pin in place. Pin jiggles out. Fire extinguisher comes to the back and depresses and explodes the entire fire extinguisher. And this is like a home fire extinguisher. This is just like something we had while we were building the car, because anytime you build a brand new motor, what is your biggest fear? Something might catch on fire. You might as well have a fire extinguisher. Better be safe than sorry. Unfortunately, we didn't do an incredible job of securing that. A lot of things happen when you haven't slept for 72 hours. We see nothing but smoke inside the cabin. We couldn't distinguish the difference until we were not able to breathe. And we realized it wasn't tire smoke that we were inhaling, it was actually fire extinguisher dust. And thankfully we got out of the car in time, because literally we could not breathe. Jack and I had to like quickly undo seatbelts, stop the car, jump out on track. Otherwise we were gonna suffocate ourselves. And so that was crazy. We tried to clean the car's dust out as fast as we could so we could get at least some track time with this thing, and all there was a leaf blower, and it did not successfully get all the dust out. And even with like the slightest breeze while you're driving the car, the fire extinguisher dust just like comes back into your lungs. So there was no more driving at LS Fest. We got like 3 laps in total and basically had to load up and head to our hotel where we were staying that night. So then it gets even crazier. We parked the truck and trailer at my friend's apartment, where inside the complex there is no additional oversized parking. There's no way to park a truck and a trailer somewhere safely in this apartment complex, but there's curbs alongside these buildings everywhere where there's plenty of room. Every curb is painted red around the entire apartment complex. We go to In-N-Out to grab lunch, and when we come back, the truck and trailer both gets impounded. Thankfully, the E36 was not on the trailer, so Jack and I quickly jump in the E36. We race the tow truck, the truck, and the trailer back to the impound lot. You know, it could have been that we were gone for like an hour, but it turns out we were gone within 5 minutes of them leaving. We get there before they bring the truck and trailer into the impound lot. They make us pay the $400 to get out of there. And again, like, this hurts because we're fully self-funded on this trip and we're already taking L's. So we load the E36 back up on there. We go to North Las Vegas to make some content with Steezy Weaver. We got the crankshaft position sensor wiring a little too close to the headers. We were able to use some extra wiring that they had from a Japanese harness laying around to make a crankshaft position sensor wiring harness that routes along the headers and under where it doesn't make any contact. We went and made some sick Manji content with Steezy. I get back to the hotel where we're staying for the final night. I get a hotel at Paris. I'm gonna relax in the morning. I'm probably gonna go to the pool. I'm gonna go to the spa if I can. I'm gonna get a massage or something to just recuperate from being a complete wreck. And we get a notification from the airline that Jack's flight was canceled. Jack had to be back in Seattle at like 9 in the morning. He was filming a video for the Seattle Mariners general manager. Jack had to be back in Seattle. And so I looked everywhere on the internet to find a flight out of Vegas to Seattle to replace this one. There was nothing. But then I figured we might as well check LAX because that's my next destination anyway. And we happened to find a flight. We find a flight that leaves at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So I gotta drive, I pack all my stuff, I drive all the way back to North Las Vegas, I pull the truck and trailer out of Steezy's lot. We go back through Vegas all the way to LAX, another long night drive where we don't sleep. We've now officially made it to Los Angeles.
Yeah, we've made it, everybody, ladies and gents. We're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're gonna drop this guy off, get him out of my fucking truck.
Yeah, back to Seattle for me, eh? This drive was absolutely poggers, let me tell you.
Oh, it was a fucking blast. Fucking hell. Can't wait for you to get out of me fucking car.
Vroom, vroom.
We get to the airport at 5 in the morning. We just make it for Jack to get on his flight. As I pull up for Jack to hop out and make it to his flight, which thank God he did, I hear this loud screeching noise as we pull into the departures line. So at 5 in the morning, I find that the truck's front brake caliper is vibrating one of the bolts off and starts making this crazy screeching noise. I find something to like place inside the caliper to keep the caliper on the rotor because I got 1 mile till I get to an auto zone where I fell asleep in my truck in the parking lot so that I could fix the brakes in the morning. I fix the brakes, I get to San Bernardino. We went to Hot Pit Auto Fest. During practice, we snapped another axle. So there's a full practice day that we were there for though. So we got to like really stress test this car, deal with any issues on spot. We had plenty of time to be able to practice. It was awesome. So we get the car back on the road, and with the greatest fear of it happening again, I raise the tire pressure on the back tires, which sends me into the wall. So I go out with my buddy from Arizona in his Corvette, and I'm following behind him, and I'm on ice skates out there. I have no grip. Car goes straight into the side of the wall. I bend my rear camber arm, I bend in my rear bash bar, and I break a wheel. We bring the car back to the pits. We take a ratchet strap, hook it to my truck, bend the rear bash bar back into place, and then we unscrew the camber arm out, this bent camber arm, so that the wheel gets back into position. And so we're back to zero camber. We got back out there, we got plenty of practice and felt good about our driving. The next day, We show up to qualifying practice, and in qualifying, we snap an axle stub. Insane. I want so badly to qualify and just compete in one competition. One out of the two of these. And we get back to the pits, we start taking the diff back out because we're not just gonna give up. We're out here, we're gonna do whatever we can to keep the car on track as much as possible. A guy walks by basically laughing at us like, ha ha ha, M3 problems or E36 problems. And I'm like, yeah, do you know anybody who has an E36? And he's like, I got an E36 M3 in the spectator parking. And I'm like, you have one here? Like here at the event right now? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, dude, qualifying is in 30 minutes. We don't have any axle stubs, but we've got an M3 in the parking lot that's offering up his stubs. You're gonna park actually right here.
Back in?
Yeah, back in right here, please. Fucking homeboy over here, giving up one of his axle stubs for us so that we can compete today. We've got another one coming for him at 1 p.m., but that's a little too late for qualifying. Can you please bring your car into the pits and can we just borrow your stub? And he was like, no problem. And he brings his car in. All right, let's start this transplant. You can see my good buddy Joey showed up, who just offered to pit crew for me, him and his wife. I don't know, are you dating or is that your wife? I don't remember, Joey, sorry. Joey comes up, sets up his awesome tent for us. Joey was super helpful. We get the stub situation figured out. We take the stub from this guy's car in the parking lot. We borrow it just to qualify. And when we went out, we laid down what most people said was the best run of qualifying, because we were one of the only people who fully laid it out there, and we ran the entire wall during qualifying.
Zwingfilms back on track.
There ain't no broken axle.
Oh my goodness! Back on the wall!
I'm gonna tell you what, that's my personal friend. I did not expect that. Good job, Zach.
This whole time, he just talks and talks and talks, but it's good to know he can actually drive and drive and drive.
He definitely walked the walk.
What Jeff Jones told me is that after my run is when the judges actually changed their judging for the drivers moving forward and for qualifying round 2. When round 2 came out, everybody was judged higher, and I didn't do as good of a run as I did on my first. This put us 1 point away on our first qualifying run. It got us 1 point away to be a part of the top 16. So again, another huge letdown. We ran what we were told was one of the best qualifying runs, and we didn't even qualify to compete. It was a pretty big letdown leaving the event, kind of with my head down. When I got back home, I came back home to a letter on the side of the garage, which was a 30-day notice for us to move out of the garage simultaneously. So it's kind of just been a roller coaster of back-to-back-to-back turmoil, and we're doing whatever we can to keep pushing forward, but I just want to use this to educate you guys that drifting, this sport, these things that we try to do, it's not all rainbow and butterflies. As you all know, it takes extreme dedication, and there's a lot of adversity you're going to deal with, and it's not going to be fun. But you can't give up. You just got to keep pushing back harder, and it's what we're trying to do. Yeah, thanks for watching. I know it's been a long story.